welcome to you, our Year 11 parents of the class of 2022. It's lovely to be here, and we were really looking forward to welcoming you into school to have our Year 11 revision evening last week. Unfortunately, as you know, we had to cancel that at the very last minute due to the amount of COVID that we have in school, and we didn't want anybody to be at any risk. So rather than you come to us, we are going to come to you. And so we're going to have 3 very short presentations from our heads of English, Maths and Science. And they're just going to be giving you some information about how they are supporting your children, our students, over the course of the next few weeks for the upcoming GCSE exams. We'll be giving information to your child in different option subjects. We'll give that directly to them. But for this presentation, it will focus on English, Maths and Science. If you have any questions about anything you hear or any questions that you would like to ask, then please do contact the school through the usual admin channel and they will forward the message to the correct person. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the next 3 presentations.
Hello everyone, Mr. Lopez here. I'm going to talk to you about English Literature GCSE. So coming up, what do students need to know for the English Literature exam? I'm going to do a few hints and tips on how to revise, and I'm going to look at what's available, aside of course from the lessons, which are always the most important thing because they get that important instruction from the teachers and the teachers can give them feedback and so on. Just before I launch into literature, I just want to have a quick word about the students who are still doing English language. There's plenty of help for them. We had great pass rates. Those who are being re-entered are meeting with English teachers to get advice on coursework redrafting. We're doing several additional revision sessions with Mrs. Brooks focusing on exam technique. They've already started, and we're getting their coursework in before the break and sending it off. There will be additional sessions before the exam. So English literature. I guess the big news is that the exam paper this year has been adjusted to take account of the impact of COVID. So rather than answering 3 separate questions, we're down to 2. 1 on Of Mice and Men and 1 on unseen poetry. They've dropped the anthology poetry. The exam date, 25th of May, which means we have about 6 or 7 weeks and plenty of time to get lots of meaningful revision done, plenty of time to practice these questions and approaches in class. You may have seen on a draft of our exam timetable that there were 2 exams. At our school we do the coursework options. The students are only doing 1 paper, which is on that date. So coursework, we're tidying that up now with the students. We're just getting it all in. It needs to be done by Easter. 95-96% have easily done it all already. Just for your information, they've done 1 Romeo and Juliet essay and 1 Inspector Calls essay. That will be moderated, checked, and the marks will be sent off after Easter. The exam. What kind of questions can we expect? Well, Mice and Men. Students have been studying that since year 10. They've got a very thorough knowledge of it, but what's the exam going to tell us this year? From looking at past papers, including the post-COVID adjusted papers, we are expecting a question on a character and a question on a theme. Now, students only need to answer one of the questions, so they choose the one they're happiest with, so that's always quite helpful. There are the characters. The students know all of these. I won't dwell on them, but they've already answered questions, exam questions, mock questions related to some of these characters already, and they're often a focus of class lessons. Interestingly, if we look at the last 2 papers that have come out, they've been quite friendly. Again, I think this might be a concession to COVID. The last 2 papers that have come out have just given students a really open choice. 1 character who they think's important, 1 character who they think's happiest, which I think's great because some students know loads about Curly's wife and less about Crooks and so on and so on. So we're hoping for that, but obviously question spotting is a bad idea as well. So I would suggest know all of the characters as well as possible. Themes, they're the standard themes that come up. The exam board picks other ones that are sort of interrelated. And again, students should be aware, they should definitely be aware, because again, we've already done a mock exam on prejudice on most of these themes. The last 2 papers, again, looking back, anger, memories. Characters and themes, it does seem daunting. However, the questions are hugely interlinked. If the students know loads about the characters, it's very easy to hook that information onto a thematic question. For instance, let's take prejudice. Students have done an exam essay on this recently. They know that George and Lenny are itinerant workers who are victims of prejudice. They know Candy and Lenny are both considered weak because of their different disabilities, and in those days received a lot of prejudice against that. We've studied Crooks and notions of racial prejudice, and Curly's Wife's Sexism and Gender. So basically the top tip for students is know the characters really well. Theme related questions fall into place. It's just a matter of planning that question in the exam. And again, students are quite familiar with this. So what should the revision focus be to help them for mice and men? Lots of notes and quotations related to characters, themes. They should devise things we call active revision tasks that are more powerful than simply rereading or highlighting notes. Rereading and highlighting notes is too passive because of those two reasons from an educational researcher and a cognitive psychologist. Memory as residue of thought is the most important one. It means we're more prone to remember things if we're working through the knowledge rather than passively consuming it. So one of the things we get them to do is to devise lots of questions, which we call self-quizzing. You may be familiar with this with some of the homeworks we used to set all through Key Stage 3. There's a quote. These are the sort of questions they can ask on it. Things like who said it, when in the novel did they say it. If you look at the green question, that relates to context, and that's something the exam board wants. They want them to be able to link things from the novel to things that were happening in history at the time. And then if you look at the yellow highlighted question, it's really important if students know their quotes, they can say something about the language. So in this case, the plural pronouns emphasise the fact there were a lot of itinerant workers during the Great Depression. Another one is we use what we call the SPO, it's a single paragraph outline method. And we'll often give students a single paragraph outline like this with a basic and incomplete topic sentence, some supporting evidence and a concluding sentence, and then students have to work that up into a full paragraph, and that's a classic case of active revision, and they're doing a lot of thinking about that, plus they're rehearsing strategies for the exam. So I highly recommend that one for English. If students are bringing quotes home, turn them into paragraphs related to themes. Where do they find all these key quotes? Well, their exercise books have loads in there. They've got big extracts, they've got key quotes, there's worksheets on there. You know, the students know this really well. Okay, so the active revision tasks I think are probably the best way, and we'll be setting them as homework. And for a quick word on homework, it's no longer homework anymore, it's bespoke guided active revision. We've got about 7 weeks left, I'd suggest now. If students are doing a bit of that every week, come into all the lessons, they'll be in a strong position for that exam. Other revision opportunities for GCSE literature. There's the usual scheduled revision classes, they're sent home to you. We're planning for a morning session or afternoon session, it may look like now, in school during the second week of the Easter holiday. I'll be able to send a confirmation of that out. We've ordered the CPG revision guidebooks, probably the best ones, and they're at a discount. I do apologise, the bell's just gone. Those are the books that are available from shops. We can do a discount on the CPG one, so we'll make those known. YouTube, Bite Size, Spark Notes, there's a wealth of revision resources for mice and men and English literature online that will suit different students. The other part of the literature exam is unseen poetry. We've been studying poetry in various forms since year 7. So what does unseen actually mean? Well, it means a poem taken from outside the curriculum. It's one that hasn't been put on any lists. We haven't taught it, and there's so many poems out there. I've never known ever that the students have ever read the poem that's encountered in the exam, and to be honest, most of us teachers as well. And that's absolutely fine. It levels the playing field, which means everyone doing the exam nationally or internationally has probably not seen the poem. So everyone goes in with a fair start. And it is an opportunity. It gets students to respond imaginatively. Our students are good writers, they have lots of ideas. They must not be intimidated by it just because they haven't learnt a series of facts, as they can do for mice and men. If you look at that little list at the bottom, that's the poetry students have covered for the last four years leading up to this year. So they have had a lot of encounters with poetry. They should not be scared of it. They've got a great knowledge of poetic techniques. This bizarre looking slide shows, again, if you've got a student with you, you can ask them what do those things mean. They will know. It's the methods we've used to teach them things like enjambment, caesura, personification, half rhyme, simile, and so on. The techniques are an important part of responding to unseen poetry, and the students are quite good at that. It expects them to consider poetic form. This is a slightly different thing, and sometimes students worry about this. We're focusing on it in our final lessons leading up to the exam, but there is no need. If you look on the left there, that's a poem, an unseen poem. It doesn't rhyme, it's in free verse. It looks regular, there are 2-line stanzas, But notice at the end that the line length changes, and that's the sort of thing the exam wants. Just look at it on the page. Why have they chosen that? What's the point of that? The point in this poem is a rather depressing one, so I won't dwell on that. Here's another one. Sorry, it's quite small there. This is about the troubles in Ireland. Again, look at it on the page. Students again will be doing this in a lesson. It's fragmented. There's caesura, which means blocks in the lines, suggesting this person feels trapped in a terrible situation and society in turmoil. So, unseen poetry, how do you revise? It's a matter of little and often. It's already part of our countdown plan. All of our lessons are accounted for the students. If they turn up, they'll be getting lots of lesson coverage in the weeks leading up to the exam. If students are desperate to do extra work on unseen poetry, we have booklets of unseen poems they can request. And they can use those as homework tasks. There's Mr. Bruff tutorial videos for the other exam board, but lots of the things he says are useful. There's the various books you can order or buy. If anyone wants the CPG ones, we can order those and try and get a discount off them if we do a bulk order. So I hope this has been useful. I'm sorry if it's felt a bit rushed. If you have any further questions or clarifications, please contact your son or daughter's English teacher or myself. And I guess the main message is homework is revision and the students are in a good place. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lara Hyam. I'm Head of Mathematics at the Quennevais School. I want to show you a brief overview of what we're doing to help your son or daughter in their final preparations for the summer exams. So first, let's have a look at some basics. As students are settling down to make the best of their preparation time, it's important to make sure that the space that you're working in is suitable. It should have good lighting. It should have a desk or table that they can work at. There shouldn't be any distractions, no radios, no televisions, and please no phones. For half an hour that we ask you to focus on your maths preparation, it really doesn't matter that your phone is in another room, and it will mean that you are much more focused and less likely to be distracted. Please also make sure that you have all the equipment that you need, including your calculator, and don't forget a drink of water. You're going to be exercising your brain, so you really do need to keep hydrated. I recommend a 30-minute cycle, 30 minutes per topic, and that cycle is built around a retrieve, a do and a review, 10 minutes on each section, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. It's also really important to maintain well-being whilst you're going through this very stressful time. Make sure you eat well, make sure you sleep well, and it's also really important to have a good balance between your work and downtime where you can socialise, go outside, get some fresh air, because otherwise you're going to burn out. So what is it that your son or daughter is actually studying? Well, because of the successes of our January series, students are all studying one of three main pathways in maths. Some students may be studying for the higher tier where they're open to getting grade 6 and above. In addition to that, they will be doing a GCSE Statistics Foundation tier. So these students will be able to potentially get 2 good solid mathematics-based qualifications. Some students who maybe didn't get the grade that they wanted in January, and so they're going to retake the foundation tier for their mathematics, and they're focusing their time solely on making sure that they achieve a grade 4 or a grade 5 by this pathway. There are some students who managed to get the grade that they needed in January, and for them their time is best focused on concentrating on their GCSE statistics for the summer exams. I'd like to just mention a couple of quick dates for your diary. The mathematics papers take place first, and the first paper takes place on Friday the 20th of May, which is around about a week before the half term. The second paper takes place just after we come back from the half term on the 7th of June. There is plenty of preparation time in the middle of these two papers, so they're very nicely spaced out. However, the statistics doesn't take place until much later, and so what we're going to be working on is encouraging all the students to be coming in for at least their double period so that we can do some additional preparation for their statistics papers, which take place on the 14th and the 24th of June. The government has released advanced information as a way to help with the problems that have been caused by the pandemic, and the information will be passed on to your students. It's not a definitive list on what will and will not be in the exam. It's much more of a broader overview. However, we have been taking these into consideration in the preparation that we are preparing in the class, and also the preparation that we are recommending the students do. It is worth noting that even though we do have this additional information, students will actually be required to be competent in over 70 topics in each of the tiers of mathematics and 50 topics for their statistics. So please don't be thinking that this exam is going to be easy. These students are working hard, and it's only through their hard work that they're able to gain such great success. So this is the spreadsheet that we have been working on as a department to enable all students to have access to everything that they would need for their exam preparations, literally at their fingertips. For each half an hour cycle, they identify one topic that they want to work on. That topic is then broken down into a 10-minute video where they can retrieve the information, familiarise themselves with the methods that they need. And this is the first of the 10 minutes in our cycle. Once they are happy with the video, they can then click on to the exam questions that go with that topic. They can choose from a selection of different questions, and that is their 10 minutes on the do part. The best way to revise maths is certainly to do maths, and this will help them because they're all based on past paper questions. The final part of the cycle is where they can review, and again clicking on the relevant answers will allow them to see full work solutions so that they'll be able to identify any misconceptions or any gaps in their understanding. If a student does realise after this 30-minute cycle that there is a gap that needs addressing, there is another link that will take them straight to the online lesson from My Maths so that they can look in more depth at what it is that they are not understanding. And then when they feel comfortable, they can try the online homework task, which will be marked, and they can review their progress. Like I say, this is the content for the paper 1 on foundation, and you'll notice that some topics are based at foundation only and some topics are based on the crossovers. The crossovers appear on both the foundation and the higher tier papers. This is then the corresponding topic list for the higher tier, and again you'll notice the crossover questions are there. They also have some content that is just purely for the higher. So for those students that are aiming for a grade 6, possibly a grade 7, they need to be absolutely confident about the crossover topics, and then they will cherry pick according to their teacher's directions which topics they need from the higher tier. Those that are aiming for a higher grade of a grade 8 or even a grade 9 need to be competent at the vast majority of these skills. School-based exam preparation is only part of the process, and we will continue with our weekly past papers, which have been very successful for the students gaining confidence in what to expect from the exams, and also as a way for them to be able to measure their own progress. Our groups are setted, and so every group has targeted teaching content to enable them to get the best out of those sessions. We also offer after-school revision sessions as per the school schedule, and it is very much encouraged for students to come along to these, as there will be additional areas that perhaps we don't have time to cover in class. Also, all homeworks will be based on a retrieval basis, so that we'll be looking at those core skills that students should have, but quite often cause problems in the actual exam. The Google Classroom is where students can find a lot of the teacher resources that they're recommending, including the spreadsheet that we looked at. And over the Easter holidays, we hope to be working on constructing our LQS Maths website, which again will have direct content for the students to access. Finally, I just want to mention these two websites. They are the two websites that are linked in the document, My Maths and Corbett Maths. The students are very familiar with My Maths. We used it all the way through from year 7, and Corbett Maths is where they can find their videos and question booklets of exam questions. Hopefully this presentation has given you a taste of what we offer the students in school and also how we support them in their independent study for their summer exams. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for watching.
Hello, it's Miss Stanyard here, Head of Science. I'm going to talk you through preparing for GCSE science exams and try and do it in under 10 minutes. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to talk through the exam structure, the exam content and revised exam content for 2022, how we will support students at Quennevais, and also how to support effective revision at home. So a reminder, the GCSE Synergy Science course we follow is examined in two main areas: life and environmental sciences and physical sciences. Life and environmental sciences is all the biology from the course, with half the physics and a tiny bit of chemistry, and physical sciences is all the chemistry from the course, half the physics, and that's it. Both topics are examined with 2 papers. Each paper is an hour and 45 minutes. The second paper, so paper 2 and paper 4 for each topic, has a focus on data analysis and required practicals, and I'll come back to required practicals shortly and how they've slightly changed this year. I've also put the dates of the exams at the bottom there, 7 weeks to go to the first one, so it's really important we're now starting to ramp up our revision, especially at home. So what has changed this year? AQA released additional information, a 6-page document in February, and there are 3 key areas that have been confirmed. Firstly, they have let us know about specific required practicals that will be assessed. So not all of the required practicals will be assessed, they've highlighted those to focus on. They've also told us what specific areas will not be included in the exam. And lastly, they've given us a revised equation sheet for physics, which will now have all the equations students will need to know in the exam on them. Now, the document is quite lengthy, so we've looked at it forensically as a department and subject specialists, and we've translated it into a student-friendly checklist so students can make sure they're focusing their revision and planning their revision on the correct areas and correct topics of the course. So how will we support students in the run-up to exams in school? After Easter, we will be resetting all of Year 11s to deliver a really focused revision carousel because all the content will be finished by then. It will be 18 science lessons with a real focus on the required practicals and application questions, areas highlighted by AQA that will be coming up. We will continue with our after school revision programme. Also, morning intervention will continue, and Easter revision classes we're keen to put on, and we'll confirm dates as soon as we have these. So how can students prepare independently at home, and how can you support them with this? The first step to effective revision is using that checklist and organising what you need to revise into bite-sized chunks using a revision timetable. The second step is consolidating and reprocessing key notes. Science is very content rich. You can't get anywhere just by practicing skills over and over. You need to make sure you're confident with the content first. So create mind maps, revision cards, or complete core question sheets, and I'll come back to what they are and where to find them very shortly. The most important thing is that revision is active. It's not reading through a revision guide, it's not reading through your exercise book, it's reprocessing key notes, rewriting, redrafting. And step 3, just as important, is checking the learning after you've done some independent revision. So test your understanding and test if you can apply it to past paper questions. Resources to support independent revision can be found on our Quennevais Science Revision website. This is a brilliant Google website Miss O'Connell has very kindly put together. The URL is in the corner there. And what we've done is we've recently updated this site to contain the most up-to-date checklists, which are on the main page, and also core question sheets. There is also topic by topic revision resources, so students can click on environmental sciences and there will be a topic folder for each yellow subtopic on their checklist. So the checklist will be colour coded, yellow for the key topic areas and green for those required practicals that have specifically been highlighted to be in the 2022 exams. There is a higher and foundation one, so students need to make sure they're using the right checklist to plan their revision timetables. As previously mentioned, we've recently put together something called a core question sheet for each topic. These will contain a more concise approach to revision where they have key questions for the topic, and we've also put together model answers using exam-specific language for those key question sheets. So the idea is students fill out as much as they can, then they check their answers, then they use that revision sheet to make key word cards or revision notes and to reprocess again. For students who want to be aiming sort of above a grade 5, so aiming towards those 6, 7, 8s and 9s, a revision guide is recommended to be used in conjunction with the core question sheet or to help fill out the core question sheet, just to make sure they have that extra layer of detail for their revision notes. There are lots of science revision videos on YouTube, and it's really important students use those specific to GCSE in their exam board if they like to learn in this way. A reminder, if you are watching revision videos, that you should be taking notes as well. Keep it active. Now, there are free YouTube channels I really recommend. Cognito Science is AQA specific. It has a higher level of detail, but it's all specific to AQA, so it's a brilliant higher pushing resource. Free Science Lessons is another fantastic resource. Don't be put off by the vast array of grey suits this gentleman is wearing. He's very concise, he's AQA specific, and he really pushes the exam terminology. And lastly, Malmesbury Education have put together some great videos of the required practicals, and there are links to these videos on our revision website in the topic folders. Now, the third step, after using the checklist and making revision notes and reading through those revision notes and reprocessing them, is to check progress. To do this, students need to use either Educate, and they can use the progress tests on there. They can retake those for their lowest scoring, or they can make their own progress tests. There's a video on how to use Educate properly on the revision website to help them with this. So checking progress using Educate is one option. The most important thing to make sure students are progressing with their revision is to use past paper questions. Now, on that revision site are exam question packs with bundles of questions, topic by topic, that students need to work through. So how should students use these questions effectively? So improving exam technique is all about practicing using these questions and then checking their answers against the mark scheme. They should do this in time conditions, aim for a minute a mark, and also they should write out anything they got wrong in a different colour pen and on a revision card or on their revision notes, so they are continually improving their notes to that exam language. As well as those exam question packs on our website, you can also find full papers on the AQA website. Now, we encourage students to think bug whenever they're reading an exam question. We encourage them to box the command word that's being used, underline the science, and then glance back at the question. So they're not rushing and reading through it and skimming and not taking in the information, but so they're really processing what the question is asking them. The physics team have also been pushing for students to set out any multi-step calculations using these sort of headings: information, equation and calculation, or IEC. And this just makes sure the examiner can see every step of the calculation to make sure they remember their units and they state which equation they're using, which will still give them a mark even though they're given the equation sheet. So they must do that for every extended calculation. Lastly, those command words that are at the stem of the question that ask the student what they want or what they need to show the examiner can be a little bit confusing at times. So we've put a PowerPoint presentation of what each command word means on the AQA the Quennevais revision website that I've been going on about lots, and again that URL is on your handout and on the previous slides in this video. Right, I've nearly got to 10 minutes. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the science team, and the very best with your revision.